Hello, welcome to the class of 2030 at McHenry High School. I am Curtis Menke, the college and career counselor here at the high school, and we welcome you, whether you're watching this live, whether you are watching the recorded version of this. Welcome to our presentation on the AVID program here at McHenry High School. One of the most dynamic programs we have, led by some absolutely amazing people. Again, I'm Curtis Menke, the college and career counselor. I am here with several of my favorite colleagues, and I'm not just saying that because they're here. Lauren, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Lauren Hines. I am the freshman campus AVID coordinator. So your students, if they apply for the program, will see me next year. And I'll kick it off over to my counterpart, Heidi.
Hi, I'm Heidi Dunn. I am the AVID coordinator at the UC. So once students move on to sophomore, junior, senior year, I'm the person in charge over there. And then Andrew.
I'm Andrew Saganga. I am one of the AVID 9 elective teachers, and then I'm also a social science teacher.
All right. So if your student is applying to be a part of AVID, just a little background of what that is, because not everybody knows. AVID stands for, as you can see on the screen, Advancement via Individual Determination. And what that means is we are looking for students who are motivated and want to do well in school and really just want to excel themselves and be better students. So there's a little bit of a difference. We have AVID school-wide versus AVID elective. So what your students are applying for is to be part of the AVID elective class, which is a accredited class at the high school. So they earn a credit for that. They get a grade for that class. And it's not just a study hall where kids sign up, but we have a whole curriculum that we go through. And basically we want to take really good students and turn them into great students is kind of our whole goal. And we'll talk a little bit later about kind of what that elective looks like for the 4 years of high school, because it's not just something we ask kids to commit to for their freshman year, but kind of commit to for all 4 years, because there is a whole program and it all goes together to kind of help build and make really great students. So that way they are prepared for post-secondary options, whether that's college or a trade or a career, whatever they might be. We want to set them up for success afterwards. So, and then school-wide, basically, we have many of the strategies that we do in the elective class with your students if they decide to apply for the program. We try to take those strategies that we're doing in our program and filter them into other content area classes. So anything as far as like some reading strategies that we do with the kids, all the way to like writing, collaboration. We try to bring some of those strategies that the kids get in the elective program out into the whole school so that everybody's kind of experiencing certain things that the students in the elective program are getting. Now, it's not at the level that our elective kids have, but all in all, that is kind of our goal, is that we're taking little bits and pieces of what our elective kids are getting at a higher level and spreading that out. But obviously the kids in the elective program are going to be a little bit above because they're getting it every day, daily in a class period. So that's a little bit about our program. And then I'm going to kick it off to Heidi to kind of take you through our successes and what we've seen in the program so far.
All right. So AVID students, one of the first things that our AVID kids who we end up speaking with at the middle schools, because we've just finished our informational sessions at Parkland, MMS, and at Harrison. And like the biggest question in their heads when they show up is, why am I here? Why did I get chosen to be here? So let's talk a little bit about what that is. If you take a look at the middle column here, what an AVID student might be, what we do at McHenry High School is we look at all the incoming freshmen and we look at first what their GPAs were in 7th grade and 8th grade. Now, right now, grades have not come out for 8th grade because we're just getting to that semester break. So we had to look at 7th grade GPAs. So we looked for students who performed in the academic middle. So a grade point average of 2.5 to 3.5. So that's like a C plus to a B plus average is kind of the idea. Now, some students might have grade point averages that are higher than that, or maybe a little lower than that, because we also looked at test scores. So some of the test scores that we looked at were the STAR exam. And if students had STAR exam results on their reading and their math, somewhere between 30% and 70%, we also added them to the list of students who we wanted to talk to. Students might also be someone who's coming from a first generation college family. So they would be the first person in their family to attend college, but maybe not. And then they might have potential obstacles that might block their reaching their full potential. However, what we're really looking for is a student who is highly motivated, wants to achieve in high school and beyond, and definitely is interested in attending a 4-year college or 2 years at MCC and 2-year transfer to a 4-year college. We're really looking for students who are looking at that post-secondary step primarily. However, like Lauren said, the program also helps students who are looking at going into a career field and trades or something along those lines as well. So all of those things are kind of what we're looking for. We definitely want students, when they get into the program, to be great at behavior in the classroom, that they have good attendance, and that they're ready to be motivated and achieve work at the high school. So that's where we are. We sat down last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at each of the different middle schools and had a really good conversation. And in fact, we also talked Tuesday to another group of students at Parkland and had great conversations with the students that day about why they might be there and what they might get out of the program. So that's kind of where we first got into having your kids sit down and learn a little bit about the program. I guess we have some questions in the comments. So Curtis, do you want to kind of help us with that before we move on?
Yes, I will play the role of moderator here. We have a question that came in, a great question. Do students have to apply each year, assuming that they are in it for all 4 years?
All right, students only apply initially for their freshman year. However, if they apply and they are not chosen, because we only have 50 seats. We have 2 sections of AVID that'll be running next year. So sometimes we have to be selective about the students that we bring into the program. So if they end up on the wait list, or if they're not selected to be in the program, a lot of times that semester, we are given a little bit more flexibility to invite additional students into the program. And students who might have applied this time, we kind of have a sort of abbreviated application process where they come in and they talk about do you still want to be an AVID? And they'll sit down with Mrs. Hines and have a little conversation with her. We've also added students sophomore year as well. At the start of the sophomore year and also at the semester break of the sophomore year. The last time students can join AVID is at the end of their sophomore year, unless they move into our district and are already an AVID student at another district. So they just apply once and then that's it, and they're in it for 4 years. We do have a contract that they fill out at the beginning, which requires them to follow certain behavioral and academic requirements to stay in the program. And so there's that where they might actually not live up to the contract. Lauren, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So typically what we do, and really I track grades kind of all throughout their freshman year. And at the semester point, if there's students that are really struggling academically and haven't been able to keep our GPA, or might have failed a class, or possibly had in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension type of thing, those are students that we kind of sit down with, and we make they're in a sense on probation, as Heidi was saying. And those students, we kind of work academically with them and have a plan put into place. And hopefully we see growth from that. And then if we don't see growth from those students and we aren't able to help them kind of get back on track, or they have another kind of behavior incident within school that kind of violates what we're asking our students to be as far as leaders in the school, then there might be a conversation that we have where we remove them from the program and they would not continue on for sophomore year. So it's very rare. I think maybe we've just had one instance of that happen over the past 3 years. So, typically I feel like the students that we're selecting and the students that apply are really the right fit for the program. And so, but there are things put in place because it's not always the best fit for a student. Sometimes students might need more support than what we can offer, or are really kind of achieving and they feel like they don't necessarily need the help that we have and they kind of have a pathway. And, we want to support them in that as well, that if they have a way that they want to go, then that is fantastic because it's not necessarily for everybody. And there are other kids that might need it more than others. So that's just a little bit of that. But all parents are always informed in those processes and kind of know what's going to be happening and what's taking place when those things come along.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And just as a reminder, and for those of you watching this live here on the evening of November 19th at 6:11 p.m., if you are watching this live in YouTube, you can simply ask us any question you have right there in the comment section of YouTube. We can see that and we can respond to you right here in real time. That is why we do this in a live stream format. Mrs. Dunn, would you like me to move on to the next slide for you?
Sure, that'd be great. All right. For the parents out there, this is not information that we shared with the 8th graders because my son is an 8th grader, and I'm pretty sure if I showed him this slide, he would have no idea what he was looking at or care. However, this is some of the success of our program. So AVID at McHenry has been in place. This is our 4th year of recruitment. So right now we have 178 students enrolled in our AVID electives in grades 9 through 11. And this graphic right here shows some of the success that the students have had over the last, this was last year's end success. So you can see, but if you take a look at this at the first graph at the top there, the entire 9th and 10th grade cohort. So that's all students enrolled in 9th and 10th grade at McHenry High School. That's 1,043 students last year. Their cumulative GPA after their 9th grade was a 3.03. Now take a look at the center column. That is our AVID average GPA at the end of their freshman year, a 3.35. And then if you take a look at the third column, this is the group of students. If you take a look, there's 229 that fit in that category. The 229 students in that category were students who came to the information session at the middle schools and heard the information about AVID and chose not to apply for the program. So they are the same types of students, the same data that we pulled to select the students who are in the program. Those are those students. And if you take a look at their GPA in comparison to the AVID GPA, you can see that our kids did pretty well in comparison to the kids in the same range. If you take a look at the earning credits, like students who are on track to graduate, 100% of our AVID students were on track to graduate last year after 9th and 10th grade. 80% of our AVID students were involved in at least one co-curricular activity. And if you take a look at service hours, 56% of our AVID students got 6 service hours, community service hours, which is what we're kind of looking for by the time they graduate. The bottom section there talks a little bit more about their grades. So success rate in all classes would be A's, B's, or C's in all of their classes. And last year's freshmen and sophomores had 92% success rate versus a 1.13 failure rate. And if you take a look at that, that is significantly higher than all freshmen and sophomores combined, as well as the comparison group. And then last, the success rate in core classes, that's math, science, history, and English. You can see that the success rate there is pretty high. So we're pretty proud of the program that we've built here. Last year, we were also recognized as one of the top exemplar AVID student or programs in the nation, the top 45 exemplar AVID programs. And we were also recognized as an AVID showcase school. So even though we've only been doing this for 4 years, I feel like we're doing something right. So I wanted to share that with you so that you could kind of see we do follow, like Ms. Hines said, we do a lot of work with following kids' grades and making sure that they're doing well. I like to think of myself and Andrew and Lauren as like the AVID school time parents, where we're following the kids around and saying, hey, I noticed that your grade fell a little bit in math. What can we do about that? And how do we email a teacher to ask for additional help and things like that? And that's one of the reasons why the program is so successful, because there's so many adults that are there to support your child be successful at McHenry High School. Lauren is going to talk a little bit about AVID in the state and in the nation, because it's not just a McHenry High School program.
All right. So like Heidi said, AVID is a nationwide program. And so just here in Illinois alone, there are, 28,000 students. And there are, 35 different AVID schools and 101 different high schools within the state of Illinois. So this isn't just a program that we've made up here at McHenry and we're doing whatever we want. It's a national based program with curriculum that's provided for our teachers. All of our teachers have been trained and certified in the program as well. We spend a lot of summers together and we really get to know each other every summer, which is great. And I think that just also speaks like volumes to our program as well, because of the time and commitment that each of our elective teachers have spent in the program, just wanting to make it successful for the students as well. So it's and as you can see on the screen too, 97% of students that are AVID students in the state of Illinois are college ready. They're on track. They're ready for that and that pathway. And 81% of those students have applied to colleges. So, which is a huge number. We're nowhere near that even at McHenry High School alone with the number of students that apply for college after high school. And then you can see too, students in Illinois in an AVID program, 75% are accepted into their choice school. So like their number one school that kids wanted are typically accepted. So there's really great data that's backed up with this program. We're not just like pulling these numbers from thin air, all things that you can check on your own too, if you're really curious about the data. And I think, Curtis, you can probably go to the next slide. So again, too, this is just another data slide as well. So nationwide, so across the nation, that was just in the state of Illinois, but across the nation, 94% of students are accepted into a four-year college and complete the entrance requirements. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. We kind of do an AVID 12 to help those students reach that. And then 90% are accepted into a four-year college as well. So really high numbers. I think a lot of these students have so much success, and there's over 2 million students in AVID across the nation, and our small numbers here that we have are a part of that as well. And we're really excited to see we only have AVID 11 up to AVID 11 right now. So your students would be our fourth section coming in, and next year we'll have AVID 12, and I'm excited to see what our students are capable of and where they go next year. And I think, Heidi, you might have the data as far as our McHenry High School. You might as well. So I don't know if you want to speak on that.
I'm sorry,
Did I glitch out? Sorry.
Just for a second.
You might have the data numbers as far as our comparison for McHenry High School students, right?
Oh, actually, Curtis is the man who has that
Curtis,
information.
you have that?
Curtis, what is the percentage of McHenry High School graduates who typically move on to a four-year college after school?
These are numbers that I have committed to memory, Mrs. Dunn.
I figured.
Yes. Based on the class of 2025, and we do have another question that came in, so I'll come back to that in a moment. Based on the class of 2025, 29% of McHenry High School grads from last year started away from home at a four-year college. 32% indicated that they will be starting at MCC with the intent to transfer to a four-year college. So they're still pursuing 4 years of college. They're just starting locally before they transfer on. 6% went into military service. 6% of anything is not a whole lot. However, on average, only 1 to 1.5% of American high school graduates nationwide go into military service. That's according to the Department of Defense, and we had 6% last year. The remaining numbers go into technical and trades-based fields. 20% of last year's class went to our local in-district community college, MCC, for technical and trades-based fields. We had another 4% that went into labor union apprenticeships. another 3% that went into private technical and trade school. So we're very proud to represent all career and post-secondary pathways and really help students get to wherever it is that they may want to be.
Absolutely. And Curtis, that question that came up is, do you help with applying for scholarships? We
Yes.
will answer that question coming up. So if you can just hang on, we'll be there in a few minutes. Okay. Andrew, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about what the class might look like in a given day. While you're doing that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to log off. It was great to see you all. I hope that your students join the program because we can't wait to work with them. It has been the joy of my 30-year career at McHenry High School to be working with the AVID program and with these fine people. So you're in good hands. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at McHenry High School, Heidi at dist156.org. All right. Thank you.
All right. So we'll start talking about the day by day with AVID. First and foremost, our coordinators really built this program, and it has been so successful because of Mrs. Dunn and Mrs. Hines. So they've done a phenomenal job. I know they've been talking through this, but it really makes our job as elective teachers much easier with having everything set up that they've done. So thank you guys. When we look at day by day in the AVID elective class, a big thing that we're trying to do is turn the students into great students. All right. So your kids are coming in from middle school. It's a big transition to high school. So we focus on a lot of different things, not just academics, but we spend a lot of time with them talking about social and emotional supports, how to handle certain situations, kind of just how to be a good high school student, but also how to be a good person is a huge thing for us. So we talked a little bit about it earlier, but community service, giving back, those sorts of things is also a big part of the program because we're not just trying to make good students. We want to make good people too. So that's a huge part for us. We do a lot of writing in the class, a lot of reading. Wicker strategies are something that we hit a lot. You'll see that school wide, but a lot in the elective class. So that's writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. We do some SAT prep down the road a little bit more. But a huge thing for us is trying to take students from their middle school level, where they were like those middle range students, and turn them into the upper tier students by the time they're applying for colleges and things like that. So a big part of the class is something called tutorials. If you've known any students that have gone through or siblings of students that have gone through, they might not always love tutorials, but they are a huge part of the class. We do them every Tuesday and Thursday. And this is probably the biggest area of growth that we see in our AVID students, because not only do they learn how to break down complex problems from their classes with each other, but they gain a lot of confidence in speaking in front of other students. And that's a huge thing that they're going to take away from AVID. We've seen some of our most quiet, sheltered students come into the AVID program, and by the end of their freshman year, end of their sophomore year, they're up giving speeches in front of 50 to 70 people at the end of the year, which is pretty awesome to see as their teachers. So that's been a lot of fun. Probably the biggest, thing for me as an elective teacher. I know for Mrs. Hines as well, seeing kids building their confidence and going from being students who don't like to speak in front of other people to leading groups and tutoring other kids and doing those sorts of things, which is huge. So we again do a lot of scholar groups, all right, working with their peers. We're starting this year. We have tutors for tutorials from the junior class, I believe, helping with the sophomores. And then we also have a group of freshmen AVID 9 students are going to be helping other students within the building that are struggling in math. So that's a huge thing. When we look at step-by-step exploration, we look at career pathways, we look at college options. They help with the college application process their junior year and senior year, and they're going to be applying for a lot of scholarships as well. I know Mr. Mankey is kind of the guru with all of that, but they spend a lot of time in AVID applying for scholarships, applying for colleges, and getting into their college of choice. As you guys saw, I think it was 71% get into their first college of choice, which is awesome and a super high thing for that. So again, when we have them one period a day, 5 days a week, it is an elective class. It does count towards their GPA. It's a class where we get to work with them on all of the things that I wish I had time to do in all of my other classes, because our curriculum is all about building a good student and a good person. So that's kind of the day-by-day schedule and basis, I guess.
Had another question that came up. I know, Ms. Hines, I think you were going to pop in here as well. The question is, so this is the question is asking if this is during a study hall. So, Ms. Hines.
Yes. So with this, since it is an elective class, many students, kind of the idea behind this is that if a student were to take a study hall, instead we would slot them into the elective class. So you're correct as far as like, this is a class, that expectation, there is work that we do in here. It's not just a study hall where kids are going to do stuff. So they may have work that they have to take home. Most of the things that we do in AVID, kids have time to do in class. That's kind of built into our curriculum. We're not trying to add on top of a homework load, but we're trying to help and support so that much of their homework becomes easier to do along the way with the strategies and the skills that we teach within class. So it does replace an elective. So if a student wanted to take, culinary, and they wanted to take woods, and they wanted, there's different pathways that students might want to. However, I do know that and Mr. Mankey might be able to speak a little bit on this, that if a student is slotted into AVID, they're kind of like the linchpin of the schedule, where many things are organized around our AVID classes. And so I know that a lot of times if a student is in an AVID class, if they need to take 0 hours so they can kind of get another elective into their schedule, those are different pathways that we open up for these students because they're committing to like a 4-year elective. So there's different opportunities for some of our AVID students. As far as like summer school, we try to get those kids in so that they can stick with the AVID elective across the year. So there's different ways to add certain pathways that students might want to have so they don't have to drop the elective, but can add in other things and other classes along the way. So correct that that's not time for kids to just work on homework. We do have certain days built in here and there, but that is not the point of the class of that we're just doing. It's a homework period. It's really like we're building the strategies and things that Andrew was saying as far as with the curriculum to help them become good students and help them become better in their classes. I will say, I think if a freshman student has the mindset and uses their time in class with all of their classes, they could go home with minimal work that they have to get done. And if they have 40 minutes of lunch, which sometimes for a freshman is much too long. So, there's a lot of time throughout the day, and they have AIM in the morning as well. That's time to work and check in with teachers. So there's opportunities for students to use if that's the type of student that they are and they use their time wisely, which is also something that we learn freshman year, and we're trying to build those things in that organization as well. So all basic skills that come with learning how to be a good student, but hopefully that kind of answers your question about how that elective takes place.
Yeah, I'll jump in as well, just kind of from the counselor's perspective. And also, Mr. Stegang and Mr. Hines, there was another very specific question that came in just a moment ago as well, to kind of give you a moment to collect your thoughts on that. I'm presently the college and career counselor. I am incredibly humbled to serve in that role. But for 16 years, I also served as a generalist school counselor, had a caseload, helped students manage their schedules and their course selections and whatnot. And the only, and not that I want to get negative about anything, the only, I guess, downside to AVID is that it does take up a spot in the day. It does take up a spot where other electives could go, which is why we will often see AVID students maximize our get ahead summer school opportunities when possible, take 0 hour classes to be able to maximize the amount of elective opportunities that are there. But again, there are only so many spots in the day. It is an amazing program. We've seen both collectively and individually, we have seen some students come such a long way in just a couple of years that we've offered the program. We are confident in how it works and the impact it has on students. But that is the one part of this to consider, especially when it comes to looking at what other electives a student may want or need in their day. Depending on any goals they have, their interests they have, and things of that nature. There was another great question that came in a moment ago, one that is near and dear to my heart, as far as for students who may who may receive special education services.
Yes.
I'll answer with a couple quick things, and then Lauren and Andrew, feel free to step in here as well. Part of that really kind of comes down to the individual student needs. Not all, but many students in high school, in McHenry High School, who receive special education services will have an additional support period in their day. There's a class called Strategies for Learning that many, not all, but many students who receive special education services they do receive academic credit for it, just like AVID, just like any other elective. But again, kind of similar to the only downside about AVID is that it does take up a spot in the school day. I would encourage, for any, families who have students in 8th grade who are considering AVID, but also receive special education services, talk with your 8th grade case manager, get an idea about the extent to which your student uses those accommodations on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and kind of what that could look like in high school as they're managing, 5 or 6 academic classes at the same time, and how that kind of balances with workload from English to math to social science and into the electives. Ms. Hines, Mr. Saganga, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, we have a couple students with, IEPs right now within our program. And typically what we see is that instead of having the strategies for learning class, AVID kind of replaces that support. And it can be too that if a student does need kind of both periods, that has happened. I think we might only have one student right now, and they're not going to continue with the strategies class and just stick with AVID. So it really just depends on the level of support that your student might need. If that, like what Mr. Mankey was saying, if they need those accommodations and need kind of a higher level of support, then maybe AVID wouldn't be the best class for your child. However, if a student is really motivated, they kind of get their work done, and they're using those accommodations as like a support for themselves, and not necessarily like I need them. And that sounds bad to say, but like, as your student and know their level of capability. I think that within our program, we definitely accommodate for all those things that kids need. But I think I've seen a lot of growth with our students who do have IEPs, and it kind of pushes them a little bit further, and kind of, I think, gives them the confidence boost that they can do more than maybe what they thought before, because of the skills that we're teaching in the program as well. So it's really a conversation, like Mr. Mankey was saying, of having with the case manager, with their 8th grade case manager, and even with the high school team too, when you guys do those transition meetings to kind of figure out what's the best fit. But there's, no harm in any of that of applying. And if it doesn't work, we are always able to switch schedules and things like that for students to make sure they're getting the support that they need.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I'd say the biggest thing is just your willingness to show up and work. And do you want to become a better student? I think that's the big thing. So, like Mrs. Hines was saying, your student best. But the big thing is, like, we've seen kids take big jumps or big leaps academically, IEP, whatever it is. Like, it does not matter as long as the student wants to be successful, shows up every day, and like I said, I know I am going to go back to this, and wants to be a better person. That's kind of like a huge part of the program for me. But academically, as long as they show up and they work hard, that's what it's all about.
I would agree. And the same too goes if a student has multilingual supports as well. That tends to replace, so their multilingual supports are replaced with AVID. That is also my background. I do special ed and multilingual too. So I am in both those worlds as well. And I think I have seen so much growth for certain students that are in kind of that range, that are ready for more, and might be ready to not need all those supports that they needed in the past, because they're learning how to become better students and advocate for themselves too. So that's kind of where we see, but your kids best, and we'll make that decision with them. So And I know there's a couple questions about scholarships and things like that. And the next slide, I'm going to walk you guys through kind of what our curriculum looks like. So with the pathways, and Mr. Saganga talked about everything kind of that we do within the curriculum and things that kids see. So within ninth grade, it's really just about becoming a better student, figuring out how to be a high school student. Eighth grade is very different from the high school. And so we're really helping them figure out what that means and what that looks like and how to kind of take ownership of student skills. And just like what Andrew said too, as far as like the tutorials, that tutoring, you'll see that they do that Tuesdays and Thursdays. They'll do that in ninth grade and 10th grade. Junior year, they transition to peer tutor groups, and senior year, it's collaborative study groups, which are very helpful for that college prep for that next year, because that's what many college students do. They have collaborative study groups together, depending on what class that you're in. And so we prep them with that. So that's kind of like our tutoring pathway of what we do within our program to help kids be successful in their classes. Within each grade level as well, we take college field trips, which Mr. Menke does a great job. So even if your student's not in high school or not in AVID, they still get those opportunities at the upper campus. So I think what's great about the ninth graders don't get to go on college visits unless you're in the AVID program. And we do go to MCC in the fall so that everybody kind of sees that. But then in the spring, we go to we're going to go to Carthage and UW Parkside. And then junior or sophomore year, we go to NIU and Madison. On junior year, we go to Carroll, and then we're trying to do an overnight this year. We'll see how that goes. And we're trying to hit 3 schools their junior year as well, going down to Illinois State, Bradley, and Illinois Wesleyan, and trying to do all 3 of those. And senior year, we do 1 in the fall. We're still kind of figuring out what that's going to be next year, but we do 1 in the fall. And then not 1 in the spring, because we're hoping that most students are committed to a school by then. So we also have guest speakers kind of at each 9th and 10th grade too, to kind of figure out, oh, what do I like? This job seems great. This career seems really cool. This pathway was awesome, kind of getting exposure to those different opportunities. And then a lot of collaboration happens. That's like our main thing within the program. Kids are constantly talking to each other about content, about curriculum, questioning, whatever that may be. There's a lot of collaboration that happens, which is a key skill that kids need to know in high school and also after post-secondary as well. And so that happens at all 3 or all 4 grade levels. There's a lot of collaboration. So if your student doesn't like to talk, they will like to talk to their peers by the end of freshman year, really is our goal. So, and we see a lot of growth with kids with that. And so that is kind of our 9th grade, 10th grade. On top of those reinforcement of the 9th grade skills, we do career exploration in 10th grade so they can figure out, what do I want to do? That way, junior year, they're going to figure out, what school do I want to go to based off what do I want to do? So now that I've kind of figured out and have an idea of these are kind of pathways that I really enjoy, what school is going to offer me that pathway to do after high school. So junior year, they focus on that college exploration and do a lot of SAT prep, or ACT now, prep for those college entrance exams. And then senior year, so I know there's a question about scholarships. That is the main thing. I think senior year is kind of our payoff year. And obviously, we haven't done senior year yet, but I know we're going to have some great elective teachers for next year. Miss Dunn, who is fabulous and is probably a wizard in all areas. So who was just on here, she is going to be teaching our senior pathway this next year, and will do a fabulous job. But within there, the whole part of that program is in the payoff, especially if you're first generation, you guys have never gone through that process yourselves. We're helping students fill out college applications. We're helping students find scholarships, and as many scholarships that are going to work for them. And so they're going to be applying within class, and using that time, helping students go down that pathway of figuring out what you need to do and everything that you have to have, filling out financial aid, and also getting teacher recommendations and all those things that kind of come into what you have to do when you're applying to school. That is all happening in that 12th grade curriculum. And so reinforcing that and helping kids be successful in that area. So hopefully that helps kind of you. I answered your question in that sense, but that is really senior year as when that kind of payoff happens. We're really prepping each kind of small step as we go along, but that junior and senior year is where we really see students kind of like figuring out what they want to do and then committing to those things. So I think that, and Curtis, were there any other questions as far as that came up for this?
There was another one that just came into the comments a moment ago, if you don't mind taking a look at it, but I'll kind of add on to what you were talking about there as well, as far as the 11th and 12th grade curriculum. Again, I'm not an AVID teacher, with my role being the college and career counselor. However, when we decided where we wanted to put the AVID classroom at the upper campus, it is literally in a classroom that is adjacent to our college and career center. So the generalist school counseling team, as well as myself, are literally feet away from the AVID classroom at the upper campus at any given moment. I've already spent several days in the AVID classroom with our juniors this year, doing college exploration for those that are considering four-year college routes. And as Ms. Hines said, even though we haven't had AVID 12 yet, I am incredibly excited with the work we can do with our senior AVID students this fall, as far as college applications, financial aid applications, scholarships, and really give those students all the support they need and all the resources they need to make sure that things are getting done in the right way at the right time, and that we are truly maximizing the opportunities they have regarding institutions, as well as the financial routes we can examine to really do everything we can to bring costs down as far as we can. I know there was another question that came in a moment ago. It was in regards to some of the social media posts that the district has been making recently regarding teachers becoming AVID certified. Ms. Hines, Mr. Segenga, you are better equipped than I am to answer that one.
Yeah, Andrew, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So the AVID program is a national program. So basically, you have to go through certain trainings. You have to attend certain academic training. So when we're talking about Wicker strategies, that's part of the curriculum. So when teachers show up to classes, basically, that they end up taking to be trained in those things, that's part of it. Observing is part of it. So going and observing AVID teachers, the AVID classroom. Mrs. Hines and myself, we went to trainings for 3 straight years over the summer that were each 3 to 4 days, 4 days of training each year. So once you reach all of the required, I guess, aspects of the training, you become AVID certified. And then our assistant superintendent, Mr. Valianatos, kind of McHenryized it a little bit and turned it into our own McHenry AVID certified staff members. So,
yeah. Well, and what that means too, when students, so like how we said kind of in the beginning of what we want to take from the elective and push it out school wide, that's what we're hoping is like having teachers certified within the AVID, content area, is that they're using the strategies that we're using in the elective program within core content areas and within classes. And so kids aren't, when we're doing collaboration AVID, that's also happening hopefully in their English and their biology classes and all these other content areas, that it's not just here in the elective, that these teachers are also doing strategies that we're doing in the elective program as well. Not obviously at the same level and the same rigor that we do all the time, but like they're infusing that stuff as well. So that's what that means. I also noticed too, somebody was asking about check-ins with parents of AVID students. I wouldn't say more than welcome to, any parent is welcome to reach out to any teacher at any point, not just AVID teachers. Like I said, Heidi and I do grade checks every week. We're checking with the students. We push that out to the elective teachers so they know where kids are at and where they're struggling. But if students are really struggling and kind of when we go to that probation area, that's when I start to reach out to parents of just to let you know, your student will be on probation. Here's kind of what we've done. And I keep them informed along those ways of like, we've been failing a class for about 3-4 weeks now. We're going to start using our AIM time. They're going to go to this teacher during this time to hopefully boost up their grades. So I keep parents in the loop in that sense. But, most of it, especially when we get to high school, it is a little bit more hands off with parent involvement, but not to say that, all parents are allowed to reach out to teachers and everybody is willing to work with you. We really don't have students that are doing poorly in our AVID program. That is something that we try really hard to make sure that our kids are on track in AVID. If anything, it's because they're not doing their tutorials every week, and that can bring down their grade. But that is usually a conversation that we have with those students, and they kind of get back on track. So within the other classes, we can't always speak to why they're failing or what they're failing. So we always encourage parents to reach out to core content area teachers, because we don't necessarily control the students' grades in those. We're kind of just responsible for in the elective program. And not to say that we don't help kids on track, get on track within their other content area classes, but as far as why a student might be failing, it'd be always best to reach out to the teacher of the class that that student might be performing poorly in, if that makes sense. But parents are always welcome to reach out with any questions that they have, and we'll do our best to help them get on track.
Yeah. There was another question that came in that, as resident school counselor, I'll take this one. The question was, if a student is in AVID and for whatever reason they're having a hard time adjusting to the pace of high school, to the workload of high school, can the AVID course be dropped for a study hall? At McHenry High School, we have an 8-period day, not including AIM, which is our built-in support period. We have an 8-period day, and one of those 8 will be lunch. So in reality, there's kind of 7 spots to fill in the day. All students are required. All freshmen must have at least 6 of those 7 remaining spots filled by a credit-bearing course. So English, math, science, social science, PE, if AVID is one of the chosen electives. So 6 of the 7 spots must have a credit-bearing course, which does allow students to have a study hall, which they don't earn credit for. So if a student is in AVID and they choose to not initially go with the study hall, so they choose that other spot with another elective, students could potentially drop the elective course, the AVID elective, or any elective, just for that matter, up until the halfway point of the semester. And that course would not show up on their permanent transcript. So essentially, if we're talking about the first half of the school year, students would have up until the halfway point of the semester, which is usually around mid-October, to do that. Again, we want to make sure that we're working with parents and working with teachers to support success in all of those classes. We do understand occasionally there are circumstances in which something has to give, and there's only so much time in the day. But addressing the question specifically, can the AVID elective be dropped for a study hall? The answer is yes, as long as the student doesn't already have a study hall. So in other words, if they already have one, then they would not be able to, because then they wouldn't be carrying enough courses. But if they do not already have a study hall, then potentially they could drop the elective course, as long as it's done within the first half of the semester.
And we do have a process within AVID where they have to meet with the coordinator, so either myself or Heidi, and then we do bring parents into that as well, just that everybody's on the same page. And so it's not just the kids going down to the counselor and like, I want to drop this, but it has to be a conversation that we have. Because we really, our whole goal is for students to commit to the program, right? And it's not always really fun at the beginning of the year, because like, why are we doing this? Because it's not really super exciting to become a really good student and to learn all of those strategies all the time. So I think really kind of once we I feel like November kind of time frame is when kids really see the benefits of the program and start to really see the payoff of it. And we do a lot of fun things along the way, but we really want kids to kind of commit and see how that affects them and where that takes them before they're just like, I want to drop. Because too, we have other kids that, we pick them for this. And then if they're dropping, then it's kind of like there could have been a different kid to fill that spot too, which is hard as well. So that's kind of why we want kids to commit, and it's not for everybody. And so if we need to drop kids, then we prefer to do it at the semester if it doesn't happen right at the beginning of the semester. So we prefer to kind of wait until after the first semester before students are dropping the program. It's very rare that kids do that. They end up staying, but not to say that it doesn't happen. And then Curtis, I don't know if you want to go to the last slide, and I'll kind of take everybody through this, and then we'll be done. So last week, what Heidi was saying, we did go to all the middle schools, and we hit the last kind of 30 kids, I think, at Parkland on Tuesday, just yesterday. And so tonight, the 19th, is our virtual parent night. And then not next Wednesday, the week after Thanksgiving, that Wednesday after Thanksgiving on December 3rd, we're going to have our recruitment night. If you've come to this and showed up here, do not feel like you need to come to that. It's basically a repeat, but in person for parents who maybe couldn't do this virtually. It'll be at the upper campus. We try to do it at the freshman campus, but there was a conflict with the theater that we couldn't get it this year. So we're going to be at the upper campus in the Warrior Room, which is the new section of the building. We'll have students there to kind of guide you where you need to go. So you're not going to get lost, but that'll be an in-person event where you can hear from some of our AVID students as well, how they've enjoyed the program and kind of what it means to them. But it'll pretty much be a carbon copy of what you've heard here tonight. So don't feel like that is an optional event. You do not have to come. Student applications will be due December 12th. So that's the Friday before the last Friday of the semester. So Friday, December 12th at 3 p.m. is when applications need to be due. And that week after applications are turned in, Mrs. Dunn and I will go through all the applications, and we will let your student know if, depending on how many applicants we get, if we get 50 applicants, we're going to interview everybody. If we get more than that, well, then we might need to be a little bit selective about students that we're going to interview. But we will let students know if they're going to be interviewed that week before Christmas break. So students will know if they're going to get interviewed. We will come back after Christmas break, and we will interview students at their middle school. So they don't have to come to us or anything like that. We go to them. We do it during their end of the day study hall period. We go in, interview them. It's really just kind of a one-on-one, get to know you. Why did you apply? What do you like about school? Just really understanding who your kid is, and just kind of a face-to-face meet and greet. So it's nothing scary. We let all the kids know, but and then students will know after that week if they've made it into the program or not, and they will know this before course selection. So counselors, 8th grade or 9th grade counselors will be coming over, meeting with your students and setting up their schedule for freshman year in January. And they will know if they're a part of the AVID program before that. So it'll already be slotted on their schedule, and know that the counselors know that they need to work around this. And this is an elective that students are already going to be enrolled in, which is really nice. So that's already going to be something for them, and they don't have to know, am I an AVID? Is that going to be elective that I have? Is it not? So that's something that we try to make sure that is on student schedules by then. Hopefully that timeline kind of makes sense. Please, please, please feel free to ask any questions. I know I saw the comment, January. It feels very crazy to already have your student schedule by January, beginning of February. It comes so quick, and there's a lot of schedule building that counselors have to do in order for your students now to have the schedule that they will have freshman year. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes, which is why all of this happens so quickly. And parents will know, they'll be notified as well. I will let parents and students know if I've received the application, and students also need 2 teacher recommendations as well. I forgot to mention that. They have the paper, and students know who they are giving it to. That's also on the application. So along with the application, they will also have to have 2 teacher recommendation forms submitted, which is all just a Google form that kids can do and let the teacher know. And I will let parents know and let students know. So whatever email that they sent me on the form, and I have all of your emails, So I'll send you guys, I have your student's application. Thank you so much. I'm missing a teacher recommendation. If you could please get that in, or I have both your teacher recommendations, but I don't have your application yet. If you're wanting to apply, please make sure you get that in. So parents and students will be in the know of that. And we'll also be in the know if your student's going to be interviewed and if your student's accepted into the program. So everybody is kind of in on that as well, not just the student. So everybody will be involved in that communication. All right. There is the link also for the application. You can scan the QR code. Kids have that. I think it was also sent out the same email that you got for this virtual link. That the application was also in there as well. So that link is in that email that Mr. Sterner sent out, and your student can apply right then and there. And Mr. Menke also put it in the comments for you guys too. So you can click there and kids can apply. We really, really, really encourage that just your student is applying. It's basically just get to know them and what they like about school, what they might have a hard time with. So it's just a little bit of background information to get to know them a little bit better. So we've already, I think, have about 20 applicants so far too, which is fantastic. So, and I also see the other comment, do the kids know which teacher to ask for a recommendation? Yes, they can choose students can choose whoever they want to get their teacher application from. So any teacher that knows them well, it could be a 6th grade teacher, 7th grade teacher, 8th grade teacher, just somebody who knows that students well and can vouch for them as a student. So I think there's also a spot on the application where they can apply, or they can say what teacher they're giving their recommendation to. And then they can hand them that form and we'll get that information from them. All right. Oh, that's another question. I feel like an influencer when they're like reading the lives. this feels very.
That's all right. You're doing great, Miss Hines.
This is not my forte. All right. So there's another question too. If a student doesn't get accepted, can they still talk with us about the questions to help them identify need be? I think it might be. Can they still talk to you about questions to help them? Andrew, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if I'm thinking you're saying if they're not accepted, can they still come to us to get help in their classes? That would be something they'd want to go straight to their teachers with. I know Miss Hines has her own classes on top of AVID. I have my own classes on top of AVID. So I would just always say, like, make sure you go to your actual core content teachers, counselors. There's all sorts of supports in the building outside of AVID too. So just because your student doesn't get into AVID doesn't mean they're not going to have any support. I want you to know that as well. Like this last year, we had to be selective because we had so many kids apply. The applications have grown every year so far. So unfortunately, we don't have seats for everybody, but that doesn't mean that your student's not going to get support. So again, by all means, I do think that a lot of students seek out like Mrs. Hines for help, or even Zernt or myself, depending on what it is. So I think, there's a lot of teachers that care a lot. So they'll have supports. There's going to be people there for them if they don't make it into the AVID program.
Yes.
And then, yes, Mrs. Hines is teaching freshmen.
We teach
oh
freshmen.
My gosh, there we go. Yeah, sorry. All right.
Yep, I'm there. I'll die at the freshman campus. So I never want to leave. We love them. We love freshmen. They're great. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Unless anybody else has any other questions, feel free to send me an email. I'll answer the best that I can to the best of my ability, or point you in the right direction of somebody who would have that. But I will throw it over to Mr. Menke and take us out.
Yeah, we'll pause just for one more moment to give any of our remaining live viewers a chance to ask any other questions. Mr. Stiganga, I'm going to throw a question at you. What do you find most rewarding about being an AVID teacher?
I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but definitely watching the kids grow from the first day they come in to the end of freshman year with their confidence. I know there was a question earlier about their student being stress about the workload of freshman year and things like that. We get a lot of kids that come in that don't like talking in class or to other students or teachers for that matter. I'd say the biggest thing is watching their confidence grow and them grow as individuals to the point, like I said, one of our most quiet kids, the first year we did this, ended up giving a speech in front of 70 people at the end of the year. And you would have never guessed that she was shy. So that's my favorite part, is watching them grow in that regard.
Yep. Again, one more solicitation for any other questions from our live viewers. So last call for live questions. Ms. Hines, I will ask you the same question. What do you find most rewarding about working with the AVID program?
I think I do a lot of work with kids who might have had a bad day or just need somebody to talk to or need a hug, just to kind of make it through the day. And I think the thing I hear most from a lot of our kids is that they feel safe and AVID and feel seen and feel appreciated, and that's a class that, if they can't feel like they can go to any of the other classes for that day because it's been a rough day, they want to go to AVID. And I just commend our elective teachers, Mr. Stiganga and Mr. Zernt, especially at the freshman campus, is that they make that environment for our students, and that they want to be there. And that just always makes me really happy that we have the ability to do that for kids, that it's a safe spot and there's people that they trust in the building. So I think that's one of my favorite things, is that sense of belonging in the community that we build in the program.
We had one more question just rolled in. What is the class size? I think typically we're around 25 students in an AVID classroom, correct?
Yeah.
Yep, that is correct.
Yeah, and that's pretty par for the course for most traditional classroom-based courses at McHenry High School as well. About 25 to probably 28 or so students in a traditional classroom.
Yeah. Right now, I think we have in our sections, we have 20, 23, and 25, but we're looking at adding some more students that semester. So probably each class will be about 25.
Excellent. I don't see any other questions coming in. So again, if you have any others, you're welcome to reach out to Ms. Hines. Again, my name is Mr. Menke. You're always welcome to contact me as well, Mr. Stiganga. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure you will welcome questions there as well. So yeah, on behalf of my colleagues here at McHenry High School and the amazing AVID opportunities that we have, thank you for tuning in. We hope to see some applications, and take care. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well.